This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Rappaport to the rescue with award-winning animal advocate, best-selling author, journalist, and pet products creator, Jill Rappaport.
Welcome back to Rappaport to the Rescue. I'm Jill Rappaport. Very excited for my guest today, journalist and equestrian L.A. Berry. Now, L.A. is a fellow New Yorker and Horses for Mental Health ambassador. It's an amazing campaign that I've been part of, and she's here to chat about her lifelong passion and connection to horses and Seen Through Horses campaign, an amazing social media campaign by Horses for Mental Health that runs through the month of May during Mental Health Awareness Month, and it supports 95 nonprofits around the country, incorporating horses into their personal growth and mental health programs. I'm so thrilled to have you here, LA. I know this is so near and dear to your heart, and thank you for being on Rappaport to the Rescue. This beautiful, energetic face that you have, a smile that is just magical. LA, I'm so happy to have you here.
Jill, I am so happy to be here. You and I have actually been neighbors in the digital hemispheres for years.
Exactly.
And we're both Hampton Classic horse show girls. So I'm very, very sure that our bridle paths intersect in a dozen different ways.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Hampton Classic. I go every year to cover Adoption Day because, as I joke with my fellow pals, animal advocates Georgina Bloomberg, Brianne Goutal, Jessica Springsteen, I said the only thing I've ever jumped are the ropes at a Ralph Lauren sample sale. I am not an equestrian in that sense at all, but I go to support Adoption Day. We have horses and dogs and cats, amazing animals up for adoption. So that's my role. But, you know, I do love to watch, and we should talk about, first of all, this campaign, the fact that this is airing, that we're putting this out there today. This is so significant because of Memorial Day weekend, right?
Horses for Mental Health and the Seen Through Horses campaign could not pick a better time. Mental health awareness this month, and now we're coming into the Memorial Day weekend, and I have seen firsthand the kind of magic that happens in a restorative, emotional, and physical sense between veterans and horses. Those who have served us can find open, willing partners in four-legged friends.
Exactly.
Horses really do have a heart that is large enough that there are studies that suggest that the magnetic waves off of their big heart literally attune to ours, that we become heart-to-heart synchronized. It's one of the beliefs of a good friend of mine, Linda Tellington Jones. You know, so this veterans, this holiday weekend, go out and horse around. It literally does a world of good.
Well, I'm all over my horses every day, and I'm always hugging and kissing them. And I'm going to give them extra hugs and kisses in honor of this campaign, the whole idea of it and what horses give back to us. And you're talking about the veterans, but I know firsthand, just for me, the support and the love and the connection when you have a bond with your horse. And those who are fortunate enough to be surrounded by horses, we know that bond, don't we, LA?
We know that bond because horse girls don't have fingernails.
Actually, mine have been growing a little bit because I haven't ridden in a few months. So the minute I get on my horse, I'm sure they'll be breaking off again. But yes.
Between that and grooming with the shedding blade, getting out of the winter and into the spring, forget about it. That and gardening, you can know a horsewoman by her nails.
Oh, exactly. And the muck boots too, right?
Yes. But, you know, with the Hampton Classic, too, I think we share a connection. One of the participants this year has been Lauren Reicher.
Right.
And she was one of the Long Island Riders titleists back in, I think, 2015. I interviewed her for Horse Illustrated magazine. She's an incredible story. Her dad, Saul, was on the board for Gallup, New York City, and Lauren was born with cerebral palsy. Her legs were so tightly bound together, it was called the mermaid syndrome. And her legs did not open until they took her dad took her to a therapeutic riding camp. She got on this humongous Clydesdale, and she said it was like her body woke up and said, yes, I know what to do. And maybe she was about 5 years old. Boom! Her legs for the first time said, yes, I want to be on this horse. And 20 years later, she was on the Brown University equestrian team, and she was champion at Hampton Classic.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Story. And one that you would be surprised has happened over and over again for different people in different situations where horses have brought them back to life, literally.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about you, LA, and where this love began for you as a child, your first saddlebred. Tell us about that story.
Oh my goodness. Well, I should have, I thought about sending the picture because really my first horse was Fufoy, a plastic squeaky Palomino. And there's a photo of me at 18 months old on my mom's couch. And I've got this Palomino in my lap that's almost as big as I am. But from there, when I was 9 and in the 4-H Horse Club, one of the young women in it was aging out of 4-H, and she was getting married and moving to Germany. And she had a Palomino that I presume was at least part saddlebred, because the American saddlebred was really popular in television and movie production in the 50s and 60s. Roy Rogers' Trigger was a saddlebred.
Right.
My Palomino was named Trigger.
And I have such a love of Palominos. The first horse I ever rode at 6 years old at Outland Riding Stables in Michigan was a Palomino named Pal. And I had my beloved Sundance, a gorgeous golden Palomino. So I share that connection with you.
Well, I'm a sucker for those yellow horses.
Yes, me too.
Trigger was my first one, and by being in 4-H, and I was the secretary, so I had to take notes at the meetings. Now, my dad had been a news writer for the Coast Guard, so he had the job of taking me to the 4-H club meetings in the evening, and he decided that to make the suggestion, since I'm taking these notes, since there's this educational information that's being shared, why not put it in a form that could be presented to the county newspaper? So we went and we talked to the editor, and he thought it was a great idea and recommended maybe I put some funny little quip or a factoid at the end. So by the time I was about 12, 13 years old, I had my own byline, and I've been doomed ever since.
Unbelievable. First of all, I think Winnie's a big fan of yours. She's one of my dogs barking in the background. Please excuse the noise. The minute I start talking about Palomino, she chimed in, Winnie! Winnie, Mommy's trying to do a podcast.
Hey, I closed the door. I'm expecting my rescue Tom to want to push it open and come in. I'm expecting that scratch, scratch, scratch sound any moment now.
Forgive me. I hope it's not distracting, but when you're on this show, you're going to hear animals because I'm surrounded by them and so are my guests. But that's an amazing story, how you got into the business, how this horse changed your life. And I've never known somebody who's focused their whole career around horses, just in the writing and everything about it. Tell me what it does for you, how it feeds your soul.
Well, it feeds my soul. To begin, the horse industry contributes, I think off the top of my head right now, is about $21 billion a year to the gross domestic product. That in its height was more than tobacco, lumber, and the movie industries combined.
Oh, wow.
So it's there. And there are so many amazing different branches of this niche. So I grew up watching the Olympics, and then like I said, I had Trigger. I had a buckskin. Again, I like those yellow and dun horses.
Love those light horses. Yep.
I had a buckskin named Mia Valentine that my parents gave me on Valentine's Day. So she was the first horse I learned to train. And then I have to thank my combined degrees at SUNY Albany in journalism and then equine business management at Johnson and Wales, which was a hospitality and culinary school. Trust me, if you were in the equine department, all you ever heard were jokes about, so are they teaching you to cook horses?
Oh no. Oh, I can't even go there. I'm a vegan. Don't even get me started.
But
Oh my goodness.
it got me into working for the U.S. equestrian team. I ran media at the Olympics. I've had the privilege as a horse crazy little girl to literally work with my heroes, horses and human. I've even gotten to copyright for Breyer. I mean, I've got
Oh, I
300
have my
horses. You can
Breyer
see a few
horses.
over my shoulder.
Oh,
But I've worked with some amazing people. I worked on the Elvis Presley collection.
wow. How
So
unbelievable. And it's so funny. We talk about our love of the light horses, the Palominos, the Buckskins. The cover of my book, People We Know Horses They Love, Robert Redford, and he's on Charm, his gorgeous Palomino. There is something about the Palomino and the Roy Rogers, the whole feeling. Christy Brinkley and I talk about this all the time too. That was her favorite horse, and she was obsessed with Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Dale Evans had a buckskin, I believe,
buttermilk.
buttermilk, right?
Yep.
And so it's just they're magical, beautiful animals. I love all horses, but it's so funny how we share that connection and how you turned your passion into your life's work and your oxygen.
Well, it's magical because as a child of the 60s, I'm sure it resonates for both of us what the feminist movement, what the pursuit of equality has meant to our country. And Olympic equestrian sport is one of the very few. Oh, I used to know it off the top of my head when I worked for the team. I think it's archery and crew are the other two,
Right.
where men and women compete equally. Not only men and women, but there is no age division. I can remember, I think it was the Beijing Olympics, there was a Japanese dressage rider who was in his 70s. And he's competing against young women who are in their 20s. The horse has always been such an amazing equalizer. And that I think has been one of its most compelling aspects that made it a great place to have a niche to write in, is because the horse sees everybody equally all the time. It's such a great environment.
Well, for you, not only is it your career, but you're also a huge animal advocate and you appreciate them for what they give back and how much they can help us as human beings with our life. They really are just a life force that changes us in so many ways. I know for me, I covered and did a horrific story about the horse racing industry where we went upstate where 86 horses were living off rainwater and wood fencing for protein to live. Literally, they were retired racehorses that were dumped and left to die. And I did this expose, and we ended up saving over 65 of them. Sadly, many didn't make it, but the majority did. And my report was a two-part story on the Today Show. We showed where they went on to find loving homes. It's very hard for me. I can't support the horse racing industry. I can't even watch those races. I know everybody's with the mint juleps and the hats at the Kentucky Derby, but I look at it differently. Do you ever wrestle with that? Because some of this, the side of the business that's not animal welfare is very tough to deal with.
Enormously so. When I stepped in the 1990s to the equestrian team's publicity offices, it was just as Sports Illustrated was breaking the blood money scandal about show jumping and dressage horses being murdered for their insurance money, and how they hired a guy they nicknamed the Sandman, who would go into the barns at night with a car battery and hook one end to the rectum
Oh,
and the other
oh,
end to the ear. And it would make the horse look as if it had unfortunately had a heart attack.
oh, I can't even listen to this. So it
So
must be very difficult for you because it's your job to write about the world of horses, but I would imagine you're conflicted at times.
I'm never conflicted because I always stand on the side of righteousness. I make different organizations get very conflicted over me.
Good for you. Good for you.
Without naming names, I have to confess that just last week I motivated one international organization to do a late night last minute Zoom with both its marketing and legal departments over an article I was writing about sport horse abuse.
Good
So
for you. I know you've taken a strong stand, but because you do cover the whole sport, have you ever done a story that afterwards, LA, you thought, wow, I wish I didn't cover that or give any press or any attention to it?
Not a story per se, but for a number of years, I subcontracted with another equestrian publicity service in Florida that picked up a rider, a dressage rider from Colombia, whose videos have become quite notorious. He became a U.S. citizen and he competed in the Pan American Games, but he's got some horrific training methods that have since come out. And I look back on a couple of those years of doing his press releases after a show. And yes, feeling like you want to take a shower. So I've purged my files of that. The equestrian legal system will handle him as it may, but most of the time, like I said, I can always look at my own face in the mirror in the morning and answer to myself. I live right here outside of Saratoga. I've written for Saratoga Today's magazine for almost 10 years, but I can still find both the positive aspects, and I think I've been in the sport long enough to make recommendations that I hope will help see the sport grow. Certainly holistically we have. The very fact that we recognize the horse's place with veterans, that's a huge surge in our industry, is the therapeutic and veterans support side of it. We now have a wonderful cartoon representative, and actually she was on the campaign too, a good friend of mine, Jean Abernathy, who created and illustrated Fergus the horse.
Right.
Now, we have Fergus in our life now. And we're breaking down more barriers. Another participant who I introduced to this campaign, because I just interviewed him, is an NFL football player with the Miami Dolphins, Pharaoh Brown. Pharaoh Brown loves working equitation and dressage, and he owns a 4-year-old Friesian. And these are fabulous things that I don't think we would have had to talk about 30 or 40 years ago. So, having people write about it, bring it to the public. I've always felt my goal is to sort of play that bridge between the horse industry and the people who want to be around horses. So I'm still optimistic. I'm more optimistic than ashamed, but the horse business does still need to do better and do right more often.
Well, that is a wonderful and important message to end this interview on. And thanks to people like you, L.A. Barry, you are making a difference for these steeds in need. And we need more people like you to do this because we're their voice.
Mm-hmm. They see us better than we can see ourselves. And that's why Seen Through Horses campaign, we've hit $300,000. The month isn't over yet. Like John D. Rockefeller said, never be ashamed to ask for money for something you believe in. So give to the Horses for Mental Health. Give to this campaign.
And then this is the final weekend, kicking off this wonderful, heartfelt weekend with just a beautiful message from you. And I am so happy to have finally met you. And let's see each other at the Hampton Classic. I will be there. Adoption Day. Let's hang out. What do you say?
If Georgie throws another great brunch, Absolutely.
As in Georgina Bloomberg? Is that
Yes.
what you're referring to?
Georgina has enjoyed my press box at Longines on Staten on the island, Governor's Island, as a matter of fact. So yeah, we go back to.
Well, you are fabulous. This is a joy and the perfect interview, the perfect subject for the holiday weekend. We hope everybody has a safe, wonderful time. If you're blessed enough, like LA and I are, to be around these majestic, beautiful creatures, big and small, give them an extra hug and kiss this weekend. And thank you all for joining us on this special Memorial Day edition of Rappaport to the Rescue.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.